The whistling kite, who the land knows as Jandu, hunkers on an updraft, the vastness of the afternoon sky fading to a milky dusk. Spying for prey from his precipitous vantage, the bird witnesses his habitat in all its slumberous, sterile totality. To the southwest sits a salt lake, glassy and lifeless. Ahead, a meagre cluster of buildings the hominids call a town. There is little pulse to this scraped and scabbed landscape. Small mammalian forms scurry between tree shadow and stunted scrub. Pink galahs swoop along after the leavings of the grain trucks that rattle through the town on their way to somewhere else. Always somewhere else.
Staying in the Grand Olde Dumbleyung Inn was a very interesting experience. It's a beautiful old historical building, but it's interesting seeing those old features against the wear and tear of the place as it is now and the rundown nature of it, particularly the bathrooms. So there's this interesting juxtaposition, I think, of history and physical wear from the people living in that history.
I think anywhere in Australia has a kind of layer of Australian Gothic, especially in regional areas, because there is a lot of violence in the landscape due to the history and what's happened with our treatment of Aboriginal people and our treatment of the environment. There's this kind of grief that's held in the landscape, and that naturally becomes a kind of Australian Gothic voice, and those themes were kind of unavoidable, I think, in the work that we produced. So many different things pop up that you never even imagined would be there. You can make an entire story just out of the way your feet feel on the carpet. That without that immersion, you would never even know that that was a feeling you could have in this place. Being there immersed with a group of people who are also experiencing similar things helps you. You don't have to focus on everything, because someone can actually jog a memory for you, or it's almost like you've got all these brain cells that are rubbing together with the same information that are buzzing together and feeding off each other, and someone else's memory can actually become yours, which is pretty exciting.
attractions, but it's becoming old very quickly because of human interference.
A common theme, I think, will be isolation as well as community existing side by side. They seem antithetical, but they're not when you're in that environment. Literal loss, people who are lost, landscape that's lost. You know, there's a lot of people who are searching for things that they can't get back. And I think that's symbolic of what we experienced when we were there, that whole place is kind of looking for something that it can't possibly bring back.
Trauma and grief, particularly for the environment and the way that we kind of can't get back what we've taken from it in a lot of ways. The guilt of that as well, perhaps, but probably mostly the impact of the trauma, I think. And you know, I think that plays into the Australian Gothic in a lot of ways. It's a genre about trauma. It's a genre about pain and the kind of the ramifications of violence. And you know, you can see that depicted quite literally in the environment if you go around that area.
It's grief, not just about the loss of people or the loss of, you know, each other, but the loss of place, the loss of environment, the loss of living, like making a living from the land. There's all this loss and grief that kind of swells out of the place, and I think a lot of that came into our stories.
I can taste this church in my mouth.
Have this image of this young Aboriginal boy coming out of the burning wheat field, going towards the lake, and that view of the burial grounds across the lake. I don't know, some kind of juxtaposition, I guess, with his innocence and the violence of what's being done to the land.
That's not trash. I was just